Hello, Mark. My name is Lydia. My student number is S04411056. The title of the speech is Texting is Killing Language Key by John McWhorter. I'm the sophomore at NCUE. We always hear that texting is a scourge. The idea is that texting spells the decline and fall of any kind of serious literacy, or at least writing ability among young people in the United States and now the whole world today. The fact of the matter is that it just isn't true, and it's easy to think that it's true. It is true, but in order to see it in another way, in order to see that actually texting is a miraculous thing, not just energetic, but a miraculous thing, a kind of emergent complexity that we're seeing happening right now. We have to pull the camera back for a bit and look at what language really is, in which case, one thing that we see is that the texting is not writing at all. What do I mean by that? Basically, if we think about language has existed for perhaps 115,000 years, at least 18,000 years, and what it aroused as is speech. People talk. That's what we probably genetically specified for. That's how we use language the most. Writing is something that came along much later, and as we saw in the last talk, there's a little bit of controversy as to exactly when that happened. But according to traditional estimates, it's if humanity had existed for 24 hours, then writing only came along at about 11:07 p.m. That's how much of a latterly thing writing is. So first, there's speech, and then writing comes along as a kind of artifice. Now, don't get me wrong. Writing has certain advantage when you write because it's a conscious process, because you can look backwards. You can do things with language that are much less likely if you're just talking. For example, imagine a passage from Edward Gibbon's The Decline and Fall of Roman Empire. The whole engagement lasted above 12 hours till the gradual retreat of the Persians was turned into the disorderly flight, of which the shameful example was given by the principal leaders and the Sheriff himself. That's beautiful, but let's face it, nobody talks that well, or at least they shouldn't if they are interested in reproducing that laughter. It's not the way any human being speaks casually. Casual speech is something quite different. Linguists have actually shown that when we are speaking casually in an unmonitored way, we tend to speak in word packets of maybe 7 to 10 words. You will notice that this if ever have occasions to record yourself or a group of people talking. That's what speech is like. Speech is much looser. It's much more telegraphic. It's much less reflective. What very different from writing. So we naturally tend to think, because we see language written so often, that's what language is. But actually, what language is speech. There are two things. Now, of course, as history has gone by, it's been natural for there to be a certain amount of bleed between speech and writing. So, for example, it's a distant era now. It was common when one gave a speech to basically talk their writing. So, I mean the kind of speech that you see someone given in an old movie where they clear their thoughts and they go, ahem, ahem, ladies and gentlemen, and then they speak in a certain way they clear their throat, and then they speak in a certain way which has nothing to do with teacher speech. It's formal. It uses long sentences like list-driven ones, especially talking like you write. And so, for example, we are thinking so much these days about Lincoln because of the movie. The JD's first address was not the main meal of that event. For 2 hours before that, Edward Everett spoke on a topic that frankly cannot engage us today and barely did that. The point of it was to listen to him speaking, that writing. Ordinary people stood and listened to there for 2 hours. It was perfectly natural. That's what people did speaking like writing. Well, if you can speak like writing, then logically it follows that you might want to also sometimes write like you speak. The problem was just that in the material, mechanical sense, that was harder back in that day. For example, for the simple reason that materials don't lend themselves to it. It's almost impossible to do that with your hand except in shorthand, and then communication is limited. On a manual typewriter, it was very difficult, and even when we had electric typewriters or then computer keyboards, the fact is that even if you can type easily enough to keep up with the pace of speech, more or less, you have to have somebody who can receive your message quickly. Once you have thing in your pocket that can receive this message, then you have the condition that allows that we can write that we speak, and that's where texting comes in. And so texting is very loose in its structure. No one think about capital letters or punctuations when one text. But then again, do you think about those things when you talk? And so therefore, what would you when you're texting? The texting is, despite the fact that it involves the brute mechanism of something that we call writing, is finger speech. Then that's what texting is. Now we can write the way we talk, and it's very interesting thing, but nevertheless easy to think that still represents some sort of this decline. We see this general badginess of the structure, lack concern with rules, and the way that we are used to learning on the blackboard. And so we think that something has gone wrong. It's a very natural sense, but the fact of the matter is that what is going on is a kind of emergent complexity. That's what we are seeing in this finger speech. And in order to understand it, what we want to see is the way in this new kind of language there's new structure coming up. And so, for example, there is in texting a convention which is LOL. Now and so, for example, there is in texting a convention which is LOL. Now, LOL we generally think of as meaning laughing out loud, and of course, theoretically, it does. And if you look at older texts, then people use it to actually indicate laughing out loud. But if you text now, or if you are someone who is aware of the substrate of texting the way it's become, you'll notice that LOL does not mean laughing out loud anymore. It's evolved into something that is much subtler. This is an actual text that was done by a non-male person of about 20 years old not too long ago. I love the font you're using, BTO. Julie Low. Thanks, Gmail is being slow right now. Now you think about it. That's not funny. No one's laughing. Laughter. And yes, that is it. So you assume there's been some kind of hiccup. Then Susan said, "No, I knew." Again, McWhorter. Then we are used to when we are talking about these inconveniences. So Julie says, "I just sent you an email." Susan, "No," I said, "Very funny people. If that's what law means." Liz Julie says, "So what's up?" Susan, "No, I have to write a 10-page paper." She's not amused. That I think about it. Though it's being used in very particular way. It's a marker of the empathy. It's a marker of accommodation. We linguists call this the pragmatic particles, and spoken language that's used by real people has them. If you happen to speak Japanese, think about that little word name that you used as the end of a lot of sentences. If you listen to the way black youth today speak, think about the use of the word yo. How dissertations could be written about it. It's probably are being written of about it. A pragmatic particular. That's what law has gradually become. It's a way of using the language between actual people. Another example is slash. Now we can use slash in the way that we are used to. Along the lines of we are going to have a party slash networking sessions. That's kind of what we're at. Slash is used in a very different way in texting among young people today. It used to change the skin. So for example, this Sally person says, "So I need to find people to show with." And Jake says, "Haha, you can write a dissertation about haha too. But you don't have the time for that. Haha, so you're going to by yourself. Why?" "Sally, for this summer program at NYU." Jake, haha, slash. I'm watching the video with sound player trying to shoot with one eye. The slash is interesting. I don't really even know what Jake is talking about after that, but you notice that she's changing the puppet. Now that seems kind of mundane. But think about how in real life, if we are having a conversation and we want to change the topic, there are ways of doing it gracefully. You don't just zip right into it. You pat your things and look wistfully off into the distance. Or you would say something that makes you think when you really didn't. But what you're really trying to do is change the topic. You can do that where you're texting, and so ways of doing it within this medium. All spoken language have what a linguist called a new information marker. Over 2 or 3 texting has developed one from this list. So we have a whole battery of new constructions that are developing, and yet it's easy to think, well, something is just still wrong. That's a structure of some sort. It's not as sophisticated as the language of the Wall Street Journal, where the fact of the matter is, look at this person in 1956, and this is when texting doesn't exist. I love Lucy. It's still on the air. Many do not know the alphabet of multiplication table, cannot write grammatically. We've heard that sort of thing before, not just 1956, 1970. Connecticut school teacher, 1917. This is the time when we all assumed that everything somehow in terms of writing was perfect because the people on Down Abbey are educated or something like that. So from every college in the country goes up the cry, our freshmen can spell, can puncture, and so on. You can go even further back than this. It's the president of Harvard. It's not 1871. There's no electricity. People have three names: bad spelling, incorrectness, as well as intelligence of expressing in read writing. And he's talking about people who are otherwise well prepared for college studies. You can go even further back, 1841. Some of those superintendent of schools is upset because of what he has for a long time, not with great regret the almost entire neglect of the original blah 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 blah. Or you can go all the way back to 16380 laughter. And there's this poor man who doesn't like the way people are speaking Latin. As it happened, he was written about what had become French. And so there are always laughter, applause. There are always people worrying about these things, and the planet somehow seems to keep spinning. And so the way I'm thinking of taxing this day is that what we are seeing is a whole new way of writing that young people are developing, which they are using alongside their ordinary writing skills, and that means that they are able to do two things. Increasing evidence is that being bilingual is cognitively beneficial. That's also true of being bidialectal. That's certainly true of being bidialectal in terms of your writing. And so texting actually is evidence of a balanced act that young people are using today, not consciously, of course, because it's an expansion of their linguistic repertoire. It's very simple. It's very simple. It's if somebody from 1973 look at what was on a dormitory message board in 1993, the slang would have changed a little bit since the era of love story, but they would understand what was on the message board. Take that person from 1993, not less long ago. That this is Bill and Ted's excellent adventures. Those people, take those people, they read a very typical text written by the 20-year-old today. Often, they would have no idea what half of it meant because a whole new language have developed amongst our young people. Did something as mundane as what it looks like to us, what they're beating around on their little devices. So in closest, if I could go into the future, if I could go into 2033, the first thing I would ask is whether David Simon has done a scroll to the world. I would want to know, and I really would ask that, and then I'd want to know actually what was going on Downtown Abbey. That's be the second thing. And the third thing would be, please show me a chef of text written by a 16-year-old girl, because I would want to know where this language had developed since our time. And ideally, I would then send them back to you and me now so we could examine this linguistic miracle happening right under our noses. Thank you very much. Applause. Thank you. Applause.